Good evening, everybody. This is your host, Folk, and welcome back to another episode of the Channel 256 News brought to you by Bitcoin Mining World. The date is September 10th. Bitcoin currently hovering just under $114,000. Pretty nice day today after some PPI data got revised from August. We'll be covering that more in detail here in just a minute. However, today, Bitcoin peaking above $114,000, getting close to that $115,000 mark that we're wanting to see. Super nice to see this finally starting to recover. Looking back at the monthly chart, still down 4.3%. But all things considered, looking good, looking good. Taking a look at the Bitcoin net hash rate, currently hovering above 1.2 zettahash. People plugging in, getting close to our all-time highs. I want to say, yeah, no, getting really close to our all-time high of what was it, 1.25 zettahash. So really cool to see more and more big players plugging in. Also got some big players unplugging, as we'll see shortly as well. Got Bitmain doing some litigious actions against Bitcoin mining company Orb after filing bankruptcy. Over here in traditional finance, we got the S&P and the Nasdaq making some moves today into the green. The Nasdaq just barely being able to close above its previous close. But over here in the Dow, we're down about 0.5%, as well as over here on the Russell, down 3.81 points. Really, with the Russell today, a whole lot of nothing burger, basically a stable coin. But it's nice to see we're staying above that $2,300 range, closing in on that $2,400 range, getting back to those 2021 all-time highs, where hopefully we can finally see the Russell and the rest of the indexes, along with Bitcoin and the whole crypto asset class, finally get past these major resistance points and break into some new all-time highs. From Cointelegraph, we got Bitcoin finally breaks 114 as the US PPI data boosts Fed rate cut bets. So yeah, after this PPI data came back through, the chances of a 50-point basis decrease here next Wednesday jumped from 10% to I believe 12%, with 100% chance of rates being cut. The other, what is it, 88% are just thinking that it's going to be a cut by 0.25%. But over here we got, Bitcoin surged above $114,000 for the first time since August 24th, extending its recent recovery as U.S. inflation data came back and far cooler than expected. The move follows the release of the August PPI, which dropped to 2.6% year over year versus the forecasts of 3.3%. Core PPI, which ships out food and energy, fell to 2.8, well below the 3.5 consensus. As you can see, it's just nice to see more and more of this data getting revised. There was some bad news that popped out there in August. I don't know if you guys remember that dip just from a few weeks ago, but that set off some crazy stuff. It also increased the odds of the Feds not cutting rates next week. So overall, nice to see. Over here at CoinDesk, we got senators still hopeful for crypto market structure law by end of the year. We've got our lady, Cynthia Loomis, always repping Bitcoin, one of the largest Bitcoin maxis that I know. But just more and more, the SEC has came out publicly and stated that they should be putting out, the CFTC and the SEC are going to be putting out regulations, hopefully before the end of the year. Just don't forget, I mean, Q4 is just right around the corner, a few weeks away. So we'll probably start seeing that come through with more and more of these different ETFs for some altcoins. And even with the Ethereum staking stuff that BlackRock tried to go, they got canceled today. But we'll be touching on that a little bit more here in a minute as well. Over here from CoinSlate, we got Trump CFTC pick alleges Tyler Winklevoss attempted to influence his appointment and ends up disclosing their private texts over X. Crazy to see CFTC chair coming in there and posting private messages between him and Tyler Winklevoss. His allegations are that Tyler attempted to derail his confirmation after he refused to promise favorable treatment regarding the exchange's past litigation with the commission. So the Winklevoss twins had a little in, getting a little upset that they no longer have that in, and tried to derail the current CFTC chair's pick. So yeah, all things considered, I mean, I personally have never used Gemini. If you don't know who Tyler and I don't even know his brother's name, Winklevoss are, they're on the exchange. They created the exchange Gemini. So some pretty big players in the space. However, I do like seeing favoritism going away. I think it should be a much more clean, even playing field for all these businesses in the States. Over here from the block, we've got the SEC delays decision on staking for Ethereum ETFs along with XRP and Sol funds. So that's just what we were talking about a minute ago. SEC has came out and said that they're trying to get laws and or some rules and regulations in place before just opening the floodgates. Once they do have a clear structure for companies moving forward that are wanting to create these ETF options, I think it's just going to be approved like that. You're going to see approvals across the board for everybody that is in lines with those regulations. So it really is just a waiting game. Hopefully, this price cut next Wednesday sets off this whole storm, and we can finally get back to some nice green days, green weeks, and maybe even a couple green months before this thing's all said and done. Over here to start to finish things off today, we got a story from yesterday with Bitcoin miners surge following Microsoft's 17.4 billion AI bet. The big gainers for players like Bitfarms, Hut 8, and Cypher Mining came despite lame price action for Bitcoin. So yeah, that was yesterday. Didn't see much out of Bitcoin yesterday, getting back to the $110,000 range. However, you'll see here in just a moment over here on the Bitcoin mining stocks like Bitfarms, it's up 36% in the last 5 days, continuing to go up an additional 10% from yesterday after being up close to 15. So crazy to see on Bitfarms, as well as Iron up 20% in the last 5 days, up 11% today, and then Hut 8 up 12% in the last 5 days, with being up 5% today. Kind of crazy to see all these. I personally don't know why you're not just buying plain Bitcoin, throwing it in your cold wallet. But if it has something to do with a retirement plan or something that you're doing that allows you to get exposure to Bitcoin, it's cool. Hopefully you guys that do have some exposure got a little celebrating in. So that's a pretty exciting day. And hopefully this continues as more and more Bitcoin miners start shifting more towards having some sort of AI exposure where they're hosting these HPC GPUs to so people can build these bigger AI models. You can charge like 3 or 4 times what you can charge a miner to host their equipment. Anything that allows these big players to continue in the space by making more money elsewhere with infrastructure that they already have in place is great. So no complaints on that front whatsoever. It's awesome to see. Over here from the Miner Mag, we got Bitmain accuses Orb Energy of diverting Bitcoin, damaging miners in Texas bankruptcy case. Moral of the story, don't get in bed with Bitmain. Sounds like a nightmare, but this one might actually be on Orb. So apparently they had some sort of hosting contract for 2,700 Antminer servers hosted at one of Orb's facilities. However, with them being valued at over $5.5 million, but they should still, at least Bitmain's alleging that they should be remaining its property under the hosting sale agreement and should have never been a part of Orb's bankruptcy estate. So basically, Orb is claiming, hey, these are my miners. They used it to help get rid of some of those debts. And Bitmain is alleging that, no, they are still my miners. I don't know how much of it they were paying off, how they are alleging that they broke their miners, if they just installed some aftermarket firmware, which Bitmain alleges can cook your stuff, which you can if you're not running it properly. But it wouldn't make much sense for a publicly traded company like Orb to pull a move like this. I know this was a little bit of a shorter episode, guys. I still do appreciate you guys tuning in. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe so you'll always be notified when we're uploading new content and going live. Thank you all so much for checking in, and I will see you tomorrow.